In a world where Carolina Panthers fans have an insatiable thirst for Panthers news and opinions, only one podcast roars ferociously. It's the C3 Panthers Podcast.
Panther fans, it's your boy Tony Dunn, a.k.a. The Professor. It's the BeatCheck. Boom. I would bust a beat, but I don't know how to beatbox. We usually have a little music. It don't matter, though. Each and every week, we jump up in here and check the beat. We put our ear to the ground trying to find out what's going on in town when it comes to the Carolina Panthers and whoever they're playing. This week, we're playing the Atlanta Falcons, our division rival. We're with Matt Karoly from the Talkin Birdy podcast. And I got to say, did I get it right, Matt? I didn't say Matt Karoly. Karoly, did I get it right?
Just perfectly. Like Christmas Carol, people. Karoly, yep, you got it.
Wonderful. Good news there. I'm always with my wheelman, Cody Lashman. Good to see you again.
What's up, man? Here for another edition of the C3 Beat Check, where we check the beat and see what's going on and all the, in the NFL relating to the Panthers and who the Panthers are playing next. We have a great Falcons guest tonight. Tony Dunn, ain't nothing to it but to do it, brother. Let's roll.
We're here to preview the Carolina Panthers at Atlanta Falcons matchup. It's been a long suffering week when it comes to Carolina Panthers. And it's almost like influence, which is the sad and scary part about it. But the Carolina Panthers have been on a complete meltdown run. It turns out that we might be frauds. And at the same time, as we were 3-0, we were looking at these Atlanta Falcons who were struggling early on. And strangely, these guys are surging. So we're going to try to figure it out. We're going to look at the beat. Matt, thanks for joining the show. What are the major stories going into week 8 for the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. Kind of a little bit of a role reverse, I guess. You guys started hot going 3-0. We did the exact opposite, started 0-2, and, couldn't have looked worse, especially in that week 1 game, which Atlanta to watch. The Eagles put a beat down on the Falcons 32-6 and really took the wind out of the sails. For me personally, I had some, probably more than most loftier expectations than most Falcons analysts. I had come into the season thinking 10-7 was attainable, looking at the schedule, maybe sneak in there as the 6th to 7th seed in the expanded playoffs in the NFC. And certainly that first game didn't help that for me. And so I've lowered expectations a little bit. But as you mentioned, the Falcons kind of have found their footing. And I think it starts, as always, with Matt Ryan in the offense. It took them 3 to 4 games here to kind of figure out new head coach Arthur Smith and his offense. And, you can play revisionist history. They probably should have used the preseason a little bit more to find that footing, but they opted to rest their starters for the duration of it and, wanted to stay healthy, which I understand that, but certainly had its drawbacks. And I think the drawback was the Falcons offense didn't really get off the ground until that week 4 matchup against Washington. And now I think they started to figure some things out. They're finally targeting their 4th overall pick, Kyle Pitts. So I think they're figuring stuff out, and, they're kind of getting going at the right time. And, they welcome a Panthers team that, as you also mentioned, is kind of going the other way and fading a bit. And, hopefully the Falcons can string, 3 in a row. But that's kind of where it's at right now. I mean, I guess we'll get into it more, but right now, I'd say the offense kind of figuring things out is the biggest difference as to why the Falcons have won 3 of their last 4.
Are the Falcons a contender in this NFC South division, or did they just start slow and they needed some time to figure things out and really kind of feel who Arthur Smith was as the head coach? Or do you see the Falcons potentially maybe continuing to get things back on track and trying to potentially, maybe even compete for the division, as unlikely as that might sound to a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan or even a Falcon or a Panther fan, or just to even compete for a wild card? Do you have a renewed sense of faith in this Falcons football team right now?
Well, I'll say I don't think they're NFC South contenders. I think it's the Bucks division, and they're going to run away with it. But I do still have some hope. You look at the rest of, you look at the NFC as a whole, and it's pretty top heavy with 5 teams. I think clearing away are going to be playoff teams. You got the aforementioned Bucks in the South. I think the Cowboys are going to equally run away with their division in the East. It looks like the Rams and the Cardinals are, strong playoff contenders out in the West. And then, regardless of that week 1 showing, the Green Bay Packers, I think, will be the NFC North. So those 5 teams are clearing away playoff teams. And I think, respective division winners. Then you start looking at who's the grouping for that 6th and 7th playoff seeds, and you got teams like New Orleans are 4-2, Minnesota's 3-3, the Falcons are now 3-3, and then Carolina's 3-4, Chicago's 3-4, but it seems like they're moving in the wrong direction. And then you got the 49ers and the Seahawks both at 2-4, so they're clearly in the mix, the Falcons, for those seeds. You look at their schedule, and one of the things and reasons that I was so hopeful and optimistic that 10-7 was attainable is their schedule was pretty soft, in my opinion. And you look at the next 5 opponents, they got the Carolina matchup, they got New Orleans in New Orleans, they got Dallas, they got New England, and they got Jacksonville. There's 4 winnable games there. I mean, there's no slam dunks by any means. There never is in the NFL, but there's 4 winnable games there where they could potentially be 7-4 if things all, fall into place. So yes, after these last 4 games, I do have a little bit more confidence because, again, my preseason predictions, I kind of had them at 3-3, maybe 4-2, and really they should have been 4-2. They really gave away that Washington game. They had an 8-point lead late in the 4th quarter, and they, Falcons are going to Falcon, and they Falconed it up. But there is, one thing maybe if you're going to say, you should, hey, hold on, Matt, pump the brakes. The games that they've won, the 3 games that they've won, the combined record of those teams are 4-16. So,
well, welcome to the club.
I mean, you guys all know too well.
We've beat teams that the combined record is 0. It feels like, and then it turns out the teams we lost to, the combined record is also 0.
So I think you can kind of say that maybe this matchup here is like, who's the real contender and maybe who's the pretender. Maybe they're both pretenders. If
I think this is, I don't know what you guys are, but I know that the Carolina Panthers right now are one of the most disheartening Panthers teams I've run into. And what I mean by that too is I want to be careful because I'm in a negative place, just period. But the defense has been solid. I mean, very good. Like, it could be exceptional if it had, like, it could be exceptional, but it's been good. But everything else, every single thing else, whether it comes to offense, just in general, quarterback play, coaching, like special teams, every single thing, like, all we can hang our hat on is potentially that our defense could be good. That's it. Yeah, and it's a tough place to be in right now. And right now, I cannot remember a more demoralizing point than right now than being a Panthers fan ever.
Wow.
I know, isn't that sad? I mean, like, because in other times, I think this is that like 2010, we knew we stunk. We found out we stunk. We just knew what we were. Any other year you had the idea that next year we're working on something. I think we're in an existential crisis right now where we're starting, for me anyway, is like the optimism of a coaching staff going forward might not be there. And that's a scary thing. Like, tomorrow might not be better. If today sucks, it's one thing. Like, if my day sucks like it has today, you think tomorrow could be better. But what if you think tomorrow is going to be worse? That's a scary, scary thought.
I just, from a Falcons perspective, Yeah, sorry, you're cutting it out a little bit, Tony, on my end, so I'm not sure if you're still. I was just going to say, from a Falcons perspective, I just feel, again, we know how important the quarterback position is, and you're finding out the hard way what happens when you don't have that position locked up. Now, again, there is probably other things from the coaching staff, that I'm not privy to, but from what I've seen, as far as Joe Brady stock, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on how low you've dropped him, but I just think Sam's not doing some of the basic things you need out of the quarterback position.
He's being compared to Jimmy Clausen right now for the Carolina Panthers, which, if you have any recollection of what Jimmy Clausen was like for the Panthers at one point in time, he was one of the worst quarterbacks in Panthers history, and people are saying that Sam Darnold looks like a similar kind of prospect. To answer your question about Joe Brady, Panther Nation has really soured on him tremendously. He's this name that inevitably you continue to hear pop up in head coaching categories, be it the Raiders or the LSU job. And we just don't see what he's ever done to warrant that kind of talk. He's had Teddy Bridgewater, then he's had Sam Darnold, and yeah, his quarterback has never been a stud while he's been an NFL offensive coordinator, but he also doesn't help matters out much. He doesn't utilize Sam Darnold's athleticism very well, except for a few instances in the red zone earlier this year. And overall, one of the consistent problems is that when Christian McCaffrey isn't on the field, our offense just falls apart. And it's really unacceptable considering last year we already went most of the year without Christian McCaffrey being available to us. So, we're all kind of left, hand on our forehead, like, what's going on here? Why is it so bad? And I think, and that's why I'll turn our attention to the trenches in this football game, because that's where the Panthers have been truly disappointing for over 5 years now, is on the offensive line. Our offensive line is one of the worst pass protecting offensive lines in football. We're not able to run the football very effectively, even though Chuba Hubbard has looked okay in McCaffrey's absence. But I want to ask you about how you feel about this Atlanta defensive front seven and Grady Jarrett and Deion Jones. And, are the Falcons licking their chops with the Panthers coming into Mercedes-Benz Stadium? Or
you should be. You should be.
Yeah,
I could be licking my chops.
Well,
and I don't even play
here you go.
football.
Most defenses would be, but I got some good news for you guys, because the Falcons went up a team in the Dolphins that I think has an equally poor offensive line when compared to the Panthers, and they didn't really get after Tua that much. They had their moments here and there, but you're talking about 40 or so dropbacks in a game, and when you only get a handful of pressures, that's not really that great. You look at the list of players that the Falcons have on their D-line, it's not a scary list, outside of Grady Jarrett, but, it's tough for an interior guy when, he can be doubled and sometimes triple team if that's the only guy you got to focus on, and then leave the other players on an island because you're not scared of them. It's easy to manage that. And, I think that's what opposing offenses lines have been able to do. Grady has historically had some success against the Panthers. So that gives me some hope. But look, I put it, when looking at the Dolphins versus Falcons matchup, I put it as the movable object versus the stoppable force. Movable object being the Dolphins offensive line, stoppable force being the Falcons pass rush. It's two anemic units, and you're probably going to get something similar this week. But again, I don't have any reason to believe the Falcons are just going to go off, because they haven't proven that. So
you're not trending upwards though a little bit about your team?
Not really. I mean, they lost Dante Fowler. He's on IR for a couple weeks. He's their best individual edge rusher. And the one thing I'll say too, which is a storyline out of Atlanta, Dean Pease, new defense coordinator, been around for years. That first week game against the Eagles, he tried to throw the kitchen sink, both with the defense and at the Eagles offense. And there's so many young guys there that it didn't work out. He gave them too much. So he even said in his press conference, he had to dial things back. He's not cooking up the pressure packages that we were hoping and expecting out of this unit, just because, again, it's a bunch of young, green behind the ears players learning this system. So, that's what Dean's been known for. He's had some individual guys, back in his Baltimore days with, Suggs and Elvis Dumerville, but he's always lived on scheming up pressure, and he's not really able to do that yet because the young guys still are taking some time to, adapt to the scheme. So that's one thing. When you can't scheme the pressure and then you don't have the individual guys to get after opposing offenses with a front four, that's what they're left with. They're left with kind of a bottom 5 to 10 pass rush. So, I wouldn't expect, I'd be very shocked if the Falcons defense really got after Sam and the Carolina offense.
That's crazy because we stink. So if you
Yeah,
don't get after
you would be the only one
Wow.
of us three who would be surprised.
I
Because
know.
listen, we
Yeah,
thought, like Matt, we thought this going into Philadelphia that we would have a shot. We thought for sure we were going to beat the Giants, and then that didn't turn out well. And those were games that Panthers were looking at and counting on as, okay, we can bounce back from that Dallas game against Philly and New York, but right now we're 0-3 against the NFC East. And, so I hear you talk about the defensive woes for the Falcons, and they're certainly noted, but just knowing what this offensive line has done, and me and Tony have been going back and forth about this on our Tuesday show, I feel that the offensive line has been so mismanaged from a roster standpoint, and just not playing younger players and trotting out these terrible free agents that really have not been good for the Carolina Panthers. We're essentially trying to get blood from a turnip. It really it makes me wonder if we're going to put up a similar kind of performance and really be a get right game for the Atlanta defense. And, hopefully we're not making them look better than they are.
That's the one other thing I wanted to add. And you said get right game. If there's any time for the Panthers offense to have a get right game, this is the matchup, because again, I keep referencing that Dolphins game from last week. Tua had a career high 4 touchdown passes. If it wasn't for a mistake here and there, Dolphins very well should have won that game, could have won that game. Things were pretty easy for him outside of a few plays. So again, the Falcons defense has been slump breakers for many opponents. And if there's ever a time to get back on the right track with Sam Darnold in your offense, this is the game. Now, if it doesn't happen, then maybe, Tony, you can be really, really depressed. I mean, you have a cause for being depressed now with how things have gone, especially since, the Panthers, they bought in. Like, they really went all in with some of these trades with Gilmore and Henderson. So, I said then it seemed to be a mistake going all in when your quarterback's Sam Darnold. And right now I'm looking pretty smart, but
don't worry.
Again,
you were just normally smart, and it turns out that you just had to pick C, and you were right. Good God, you could have just picked C.
Yeah, the answer's always C, right?
Man, gosh, Sam Darnold's been a bum, and I've been trying to give him every opportunity. I've tried to not be down on him. Where are the strengths? What are the strengths of the Atlanta Falcons right now?
Again, I think it always starts with the offense. Matt Ryan is playing as well as any quarterback in football right now. I think he's finally getting an understanding of this offense, and it's an offense in the West Coast roots that he was, very equipped in his MVP season with Kyle Shanahan. Arthur Smith runs an offshoot of the Shanahan-LaFleur tree. So it definitely starts with Matt Ryan. The last 2 weeks, you could say a strength of the Falcons is Kyle Pitts. Very curious to see how the Panthers match up there. Certainly, they should learn a lesson from the Dolphins. Don't play a lot of man-to-man coverage against Kyle Pitts. Don't think, Jeremy Chinn's good enough to guard Kyle Pitts one-on-one, because he's probably not. So it starts with that, those two guys. I will say the run game really hasn't gotten off the ground yet. That's the one part of the offense that's still kind of, stuck on
Has that
you
been
know.
Mike Davis? What's going on? We've been because
Well, yeah,
I'm a Mike Davis fan. Runs hard,
it's
or at
interesting how
least he
they.
did for us.
Yeah, no, Mike Davis last year for you guys when he filled in, he was one of the best running backs in elusive rating per PFF. You know, had a knack for making guys miss in the open field. Still has a knack for doing that. He didn't get many carries this past week, but there was one where, you know, the offensive line did not do their job. A guy was free in the backfield as soon as, you know, Mike Davis got the ball. You know, -4 yards is what it should have been. Mike turned it into a 3-yard run on 3rd and 3 to convert. It was a big conversion. It's been weird. Whenever Mike Davis gets the ball, the offensive line does not do their job, and he's always then forced to have to make defenders miss. And then when Cordell Patterson gets it, it seems like they do their job more, and he's able to, you know, with his quick burst, get the hole. You know, Patterson, he's a guy I probably should mention as well as being a strength. What a revelation he is. Finally, after 7-8 years in the league, you know, someone figured out how to use his talents on offense and just use him as a weapon. He's split out
I think
wide.
the Bears kind of did it a little bit.
They did a little bit, but now the Falcons are really taking it and running with it. And he, you know, he's going to set career highs in touches, you know, in this age 30 season. But, you know, he's got the tread maybe of only a 5 or 4 year player. So he's definitely someone to watch out for. He definitely outsnapped Davis this past week. That's something to watch moving forward if he continues to do that. I'm a little skeptical. I think it was just, I don't know, something in the game plan for the Miami game. But yeah, the strengths are definitely, you know, probably those 3 guys: Matt Ryan, Kyle Pitts, Cordell Patterson. The offensive line, I saw a comment in the chat there that pulled up that the offensive line is weak. And, you know, while yes, they're not one of the better units, they've definitely been trending upward. Only Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, or actually they're tied with them. Those 2 teams, the Cowboys and the Falcons, have allowed only 2 sacks over the last 4 weeks, best in the league. So they're definitely on the up and up there. You know, they've had some young guys. They have Matt Hennessy at center, second-year player that they drafted in the 3rd round. He's now, you know, he has replaced Alex Mack this year at center. And, you know, I don't know what you guys make of Pro Football Focus stats, but, you know, he's 13th overall center, and he's ahead of some pretty good players. So he's definitely he's trending upward. Jalen Mayfield, who's a guy, if there's one weak spot really to target on the offensive line, I'd say it's him at left guard. He was the 3rd round pick this year for the Falcons. He was a career tackle in college at Michigan. Their development plan was to put him at guard, and, you know, he's had some dreadful performances. He's had some okay performances, but he's definitely the guy that I think we're most concerned about on that side. Maybe also right tackle too. Caleb McGarry's been in and out of the lineup. Started the season slow. He had some undisclosed injury that they still won't tell us about. Why he missed a lot of camp. So he was on the COVID last week. He's returning. He's activated this week, and, you know, the expectation is he'll be at right tackle. He hasn't played that great either. So left guard, right tackle, if there's 2 spots, you know, I will say that Panthers defense does worry me a little bit. You know, I think with Phil Snow and some of the pressures he's dialed up, and, you know, you're going up against a youthful offensive line, inexperienced offensive line, I can see him having some success, you know, confusing that unit with Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick.
And hopefully Stephon Gilmore can give us a little breathing room with maybe playing some man coverage. And I'm not too high on Shaq coming back at this moment. You know what I mean? I don't want to get excited, but it would help to have some of those players back. And
has he been out? Shaq Thompson's been out.
Yeah, he's been out the past 2 games, and he's starting to come back now. We'll have him.
A guy that Cody was kind of moderate on, tepid, I guess. What is it? What is it when you're lukewarm? You are lukewarm on Justin Burris, but, you know, when he's been there and had Shaq and Jeremy Chin, the defense was better, right? So, I mean, like if all of a sudden you bring all them back and you hope that they don't lose a step and they just kind of click back in, maybe that helps. But again, what are we talking about, Cody? It's all about the Panthers defense getting the job done. And there's no excitement about the offense potential. Like the offense, if it just doesn't, man, if the offense scores more than 7 points, man, I feel like we're about to clap.
I still think that I think that we have a really good defense still, even in spite of the injuries. You know, you mentioned earlier,
Right.
you know, Kyle Pitts on Jeremy Chin, and so some of the people in our chat room kind of took umbrage with that. But what I will say is that to me, Jeremy Chin isn't the guy that I'm excited to see matched up on Kyle Pitts, and unfortunately, we're not going to get to see that matchup because I'm so fascinated.
Yeah, I know where you're
to
going
see,
at.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated to see what this rivalry the next few years is going to look like between Kyle Pitts and JC
Why
Horn.
is Kyle Pitts hurt?
No, JC Horn is
Jeremy Chin. Oh, JC Horn. I thought you said Jeremy Chin.
But no,
JC Horn had the most success against them in college.
Yeah, JC Horn when he went up against Kyle Pitts in college. And I'm excited because I think that those two, especially being in the same division, you know, I think
they're both number 8 too.
Yeah, they're both number 8. They're both uniquely equipped, I think, to kind of counteract each other's strengths. You know, they're both really long, they're tall, they're strong guys, very athletic and dynamic. And it's just unfortunate that we're not going to be able to see that matchup potentially this year. We're hoping that he might be back sometime later this year. But again, that's a whole nother bag of worms if the Panthers are even looking to be a playoff team at that point, whether or not we should play him or not. But Kyle Pitts is easily one of the best weapons on your team right now. We had a Falcon guy on yesterday, and I'll ask you the same question that I asked him. Who would you say is the number one offensive target for the Falcons? Is it Kyle Pitts or Calvin Ridley? Or are they trying to do a blend of both and distribute the ball evenly? Who's the go-to guy now that the Falcons are minus Julio Jones?
Yeah, and probably another storyline to talk about with the Falcons is Calvin Ridley's been a big disappointment this year. And it's tough to put a finger on why he hasn't had the production yet that he had, you know, last season when he broke out, you know, after Julio went down. A lot of us are speculating that, you know, Arthur Smith, the type of weapon that he looks for, if you look at, you know, the Tennessee offense that he had the previous 2 seasons, A.J. Brown was a different type of player than Calvin Ridley, in that A.J. Brown was kind of your, you know, you call a slant for him or you call kind of a 10-yard dig for him. He catches it, and then he's good after the catch. Calvin Ridley is not really great after the catch. I like to poke fun of it, but he's kind of like a chicken with his head cut off sometimes when he gets the ball in his hands. He's a great route runner, and that's what makes him kind of a top to 15.
And that's what
receiver.
they all said when he came out of college. It was like, oh, he's just the best route runner ever.
Yeah,
but it didn't seem like the upside was there. I always felt like that DJ Moore, the upside was higher. Like DJ Moore, like
he might be a more complete receiver, right?
Right.
He might be a more complete
and
player.
The floor was higher for Ridley, but the ceiling was higher.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with
DJ
that.
Moore.
I won't argue with that. And again, the types of routes that Arthur Smith's calling for Calvin Ridley, he's calling similar routes that he called for A.J. Brown, and that doesn't work for Calvin Ridley. And that's why I think he's been pretty slow out of the gates this season. And to answer the question then, I'd say it's Kyle Pitts right now. I mean, Matt Ryan, the chemistry's there. The trust is there. If you look at the last 2 weeks, I mean, this past week, Calvin Ridley was back. He had a personal matter that, again, we don't know much about that either. I think Ian Rappaport said it was a mental health thing that Calvin just needed to be out for. And, you know, you saw that in that Jets game, you know, Kyle Pitts broke out, but then, you know, Calvin Ridley was back in the lineup this past week, and, you know, Kyle Pitts continued to shine, and he was the go-to weapon, and Matt Ryan went to him on that critical play on the game-winning drive. where he was matched up one-on-one with Xavier Howard, one of the better cornerbacks in football. And, Kyle Pitts stacked him in his release, and, Matt put a perfect ball on him, and, the rest was history. So, yeah, I think it's Kyle Pitts until we see more from Calvin Ridley.
Talk to us about this coaching staff. What do you think about them?
Falcons, right?
Yeah.
You're not asking about yours. Okay.
Man, we hate ours. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We're just in the.
No, I get
we're
it.
in a
I mean,
valley
we were doubting. Falcons fans were doubting our own coaching staff those first couple weeks, and coming into the season, I was very bullish on them. Outside of Brandon Staley,
Why is that? Tell me why you were bullish.
Well, I think Matt Ryan has never had the consistency from a play calling standpoint his entire career. So I think we were all excited to get an offensive guy in the building that we knew wouldn't get lured away or hired away. And also,
that's an important point for us as Panther fans. We've been debating on who you should hire as a head coach, but keep going.
Well, and I add a small nugget there. I did a lot of research on Joe Brady because I had thought Joe Brady was going to, the reports were that he was one of the favorites, and they decided to go in a different direction. But again, that's why I'm kind of, I think you shouldn't write off Joe Brady too much. From what the research I did and, the stuff people have said about him, I think he is going to be good. I think you're just seeing that if you don't have that quarterback position, I mean, even look at the Rams with McVay. He was stunted to a degree until he was like, all right, I'm going to ship Jared Goff out of there, and I'm going to get an upgraded quarterback. And now you're seeing his offense being unleashed in LA with Stafford. But going back to Arthur Smith, I thought also not just because he's an offensive mind, but the type of offense he ran was perfect for Matt Ryan. Because as I noted earlier, he runs an offshoot of that West Coast Shanahan LaFleur tree, and that's where Matt had his most success with. And it doesn't require it's not a big play deep shot offense. I mean, they'll dial it up from time to time. They'll hit that play action deep shot, but it's more for that intermediate game. And Matt's been one of the better quarterbacks since he entered the league in the intermediate game. We all kind of know his arm strength isn't the greatest. So, but when you're talking that 10 to 19 yard range, he's perfect for it. So that was like kind of the start of why Arthur Smith was a perfect fit. I was saying that Brandon Staley was my top option because I thought he was the best actual football coach.
Everybody, you know what? I want him to be my life coach, bro.
Yeah, I mean, he is nailing these.
There is nobody smarter and cooler than that guy. I want him to be the president of the United States, dude.
He gets it.
I mean, really, like everything. Like it's like you want to talk about race in America, I would try him out.
Yeah. No, he gets it. And so he was my top one just because, from a football standpoint, and then like I didn't even know how great of a leader he was because you don't always.
Where did he come from? Tell me about just brief. I mean, I don't know a lot about him. I just have seen him talk, and he was in infatuated with him.
I think it was a Division III program. I forget the name of it, but I think the reason he landed with the Chargers is because Tom Telesco, their GM, also was from that school. So there's that connection there that, but he started low-level coach. He was a quarterback growing up. So I think that was the thing that like he sees the game from a quarterback standpoint, but he's always coached defense. And, he eventually got, it's funny because someone on the Falcons staff, Dave Ragone, who's the Falcons, offensive coordinator in name only. He doesn't call the plays, but Dave Ragone was instrumental. I guess they grew up together around the Ohio area, and Dave Ragone, gave him a recommendation to get into the NFL. He started on then Fangio's staff, learned everything he could about Fangio's defense, and then kind of applied it and expanded upon it as he then became a defensive coordinator himself and just absolutely killed it with the Rams. And I know a lot of people wanted to say, oh, well, they got Aaron Donald and they got Jalen Ramsey, but I think that's surface level thinking, and he did much more than that. I mean, he's truly a guru, and I think I'd be shocked if he didn't have, especially with the quarterback that they now have, I'd be shocked if he doesn't win them a Super Bowl at some point in his tenure there. But, I understand. I guess my one reservation is the Falcons didn't even look at him. They didn't even bring him in for an interview, which kind of was disappointing. But I understand why they went Arthur Smith, and if they couldn't get Staley, Arthur Smith was as good a fit as any, and certainly, again, things are trending in the right direction, and I think a lot of the players respect him, and I think he's building something pretty good there. They just got to bring in more talent because right now the roster is a little lacking there, and obviously the salary cap has gotten in the way a bit as well.
Do you favor AJ Terrell in his matchup against DJ Moore?
Well, the thing with AJ Terrell is he's now nursing his second concussion of the season already, and he was limited in practice. We're hopeful that he's going to play, but that's going to be a great matchup because AJ Terrell, he's one of the unsung stars that I think not a lot of people know about outside of Atlanta, but hopefully the national audience will. I know Pro Football Focus has been championing them on their Twitter. He's the only cornerback with 50-plus man coverage snaps without allowing a catch. His passer rating allowed is 39.6. So he's been a stud, and opposing quarterbacks are looking the other direction. I don't blame them. Fabian Moreau's, he's serviceable, but if you're going to pick which cornerback to target, target Fabian Moreau. That's why, if the Falcons didn't get Kyle Pitts, I wanted J.C. Horn because I think that's a real need going forward is to try to lock down that cornerback 2 role so that offenses are really going to have a decision to make, moving forward. Because I thought J.C. Horn, the swagger and intensity that he brings, he's going to be a fun player. And you're right. I mean, it's going to be a great matchup between him and Kyle Pitts for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
So there's a guy that I love. All right, so I love Cam Newton. I love a couple of people that have been, I won't say blackballed, but they're not in the league.
Yeah.
Right at this moment, and you think they should be. But I'm gonna reference a guy from Tarboro, North Carolina, who I love as much as you can love anybody who has never played on your team. Ty Gurley, should he be play? Is he really like? Should he not be in the NFL at all?
I might break your heart.
He's not even
Tony,
on a team, right?
Yeah, it might break your heart here, but I don't think he should be.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate how that those knee
that
injuries
dude.
really
Like,
caught
I
up.
love him, bro.
Yeah, no, he was a great dude. I mean, when the Falcons signed him, the reception for it was huge, and I get it. I mean, he went to UGA as well,
Yeah,
so there's that
and
connection.
it killed it there.
Yeah, and I mean, even going to the game in week 1, I mean, there's Gurley jerseys everywhere. People really went all in on that, and I was trying to caution them because I knew it was only going to be a 1-year rental, and I knew like that was a decision. It was like one of those bad lasting impressions from the old regime was that decision because I feel like they only did it. They only did it to sell tickets, and then turns out we're in a pandemic, and there,
right,
fans weren't allowed in the stadium. So from a football standpoint, it didn't make sense because again, I knew he was cooked, and
he can't help a team in the league at all.
I mean, don't
is
you
he
think
broken? Is he just like an old man walking around now?
Well, yeah, he's got those arthritic knees, and it's no joke.
Yeah.
And I mean, the Falcons had him and Ito Smith and Brian Hill last year, and Brian Hill and Ito Smith offered more as a runner than him, unfortunately. And it stinks. Injuries stink. I wish you could just turn them off because there's a lot of great players that got taken away way too soon. I think he was one of them.
Who is the guy that used to play in your secondary that is now playing pretty well in Arizona?
Robert Alford?
Yes, I almost said Alfred. I am notorious for reversing names, so I almost called him Alfred, or like just getting people's names wrong. I almost called him Alfred Morris or whatever. He used to be a running back or something.
Yeah.
Alfred Robert. What is so your secondary has been a mess. It felt like for a long time, and now we talked about Cody. Who's the guy's name again that we were just talking about? The guy that's real good for. Yeah, Terrell.
AJ Terrell.
Yeah. What's going on with that secondary? And what is you said Alfred? What is he doing in Arizona now? Interesting.
Well, I haven't even been keeping up.
I'm
on
sorry.
him.
I'm all over the place.
Well, I know Robert Alford. Falcons let him go. couple years ago, and then back-to-back years. I mean, we talk about injuries. He got hit with the injury bug. He was
twice.
I don't think he
pectoral and
yeah.
then something else.
I don't think he played the whole season the last 2 years, and so it's good to hear that he's doing better in Arizona. It was just a point where, again, I think the Falcons,
Trufant, Trufant.
Trufant and him, Trufant and Alfred were the two guys. They were drafted in 2013 together, and I think they were let go in like consecutive years. One the 1 year, and then Trufant the next year. But yeah, the Falcons have had to retool their secondary. They completely redid their entire safety room this offseason. They're starting two veteran guys, kind of journeymen, I guess you can maybe say. Eric Harris came over from the Raiders, and Deron Harmon, longtime Patriot, one-time Lion. They signed him. And then they drafted Richie Grant, which is kind of another disappointment. It's not time to give up on him or anything, but I guess the word is he hasn't picked up the defense.
Was he from UC? He was from a Florida
UCF.
School, right?
UCF. They drafted him in the second round. And, we were all – I love the pick, especially because they were able to move down a couple spots and acquire another pick and still nab him. And he was a guy on my list of, like, dream scenarios in the second round. Again, it's a difficult defense to learn. For a rookie. And so, he's taken some time. He's been mixed in at nickel. They've played him at the nickel spot because they've had a lot of injuries there. Isaiah Oliver, which maybe we should talk about him. Isaiah Oliver was their nickel cornerback, second-round pick from 2018. Couldn't cut it on the outside, but found a home at nickel corner and was one of our better defensive players the first 4 weeks, but was lost for the season in that Washington game to an ACL. And that was a big loss. And now we're kind of cycling through some players. Avery Williams, rookie 5th rounder. He had the first, opportunity at that, but then he got hurt. And so that's why, Richie Grant has mixed in and some other players have mixed in. So that nickel cornerback's a spot. I don't know, who your primary slot receiver is, or if DJ Moore gets moved there at all, but that's a potential opportunity. Because the
Falcons... Who is our primary slot receiver right now, Cody? Because right now our offense is so up in the air. Obviously we have the two starters, which are DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Robbie Anderson, who I love, and it's just had such a struggle bus of a year. Like he's got a case of the yips. Like he cannot.
What happened to Terrace Marshall? I heard Terrace Marshall
got a concussion.
So Terrace Marshall, he has a concussion that he's working through right now, but he's also been the guy that we've been lining up at slot, in that position.
But he didn't get any action in the beginning.
Body. No, and then we were asking the question of, was Terrace Marshall's inactivity due to Joe Brady just not spreading the ball around enough, or was it on Terrace? The inevitable back and forth that we keep having is that these receivers are at a detriment because of our quarterback and our offensive line. And even this year, we're starting to see more drops than we ever have before.
It's kind of true. Like, it is kind of true. Like, yes, is that obviously your receivers are going to hurt and your offense is going to hurt when your offensive line stinks and your quarterback stinks. But at the same time... Did you see
that clip on Dan Orlovsky had about the one play in the Giants game?
Yeah, and the timing and how he's too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and his receivers, they're not even looking for the ball, and he's sitting ready to throw.
Right. So those are some basic things that a quarterback...
clip. I've seen, I feel not that same exact clip, but I've seen people use examples like that. Like, and this is where I'm just be careful on being anecdotal, right? Is like we find one clip is that I've seen 10 clips too, where the receivers are wide open, waiting for or ready for the ball. And Sam Darnold is like a crazy doing something stupid. So here's the thing with the Carolina Panthers that is wild, is that everything is bad on offense. Like every single thing is like, even the fixtures, which you should think are, all right, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Oh, not that bad. Like those are the guys that are not going to be bad. Yeah, man, Robbie Anderson's dropping balls. That don't even make sense. Then on top of that, Joe Brady, it's a shit show right now on offense. And I don't know how to put my finger on anything. Everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. It's not like you put the pasta sauce from Italian. So it's like you get the marinara or whatever. It's the gravy. We call it the gravy. And there's like, oh, there's too much salt in it. You could say that. There's too much salt. There's too much water. There's too much oregano. There's too much everything. There's nothing's right about it. And it is funky, man. It's so funky. I don't even know how to feel about it. In the past, we could say, oh, it was Mike Shula. In the past, we could say there's no weapons. In the past, we could say it's our left tackle. Right now, we have one offensive lineman who is not a train wreck. One. That's like the only thing. Like there's no one fix to this offense. And that's the real scary part to me. You know, it's like firing Joe Brady and putting a different play caller in isn't going to really help. I mean, it might help a little for a moment. It might change like something. You know, even
I would just be curious with a better quarterback how they'd look. I mean, where are you at with PJ Walker and when you want to see him get like
I mean, he's not the answer either, you know.
Well, not the long-term answer, but at least maybe.
No, you know what is that Cody and I fight. We like Cody and I, who are best friends. Like we're great friends. We've been doing this podcast for a minute together, and we have come to blows on this podcast in the last couple of days. That's how bad things have gotten.
Yeah,
and to the point where he is a Clemson guy. Look, I'm gonna set this up, Cody. You are a Clemson guy. You are a Deshaun Watson lover. You like to, put your, what,
give massages. No, I don't. You can't prove it.
Exactly. All that. But to the point of this is that if you gave us Deshaun Watson, we would be better. We would be a better team. Like we would be a better, like, of course he would cover those deficiencies just like Cam. Cam covered so many deficiencies. But we truly would not be a better offense. I mean, we would like a little bit. I mean, we would be better, right? I mean, obviously you take away a negative part, you put a positive part in, but it doesn't make.
He's dealt with bad offensive lines his entire career, Deshaun.
Yeah.
So
and that's been my point.
So did Cam. So did everybody. The point is, it's not going to fix everything. It will fix a lot. It will help a lot. It will mask. But I have learned from this offense that Sam Darnold sucks, but so does everything else.
I mean, and so again, he says that we've been coming to blows. Look, I don't know if we would win a Super Bowl with Deshaun Watson. The point that I was trying to make is if you look at how our defense is set up and built, we're an aggressive defense. We want to play fast.
Yeah, we got to play from
at
the
line of scrimmage. And essentially, Matt Rule is pretty much depending on our defense to pitch a shutout all the time. And if we had a quarterback that was able to, make some of the plays, even though we didn't have a good pocket in front of him, a la Deshaun Watson, who threw for almost 5,000 yards behind a piss-poor Texans offensive line, it would probably be better. But again, man, now there's all these new reports that he doesn't, or he wouldn't waive his no trade clause to come here. So, I mean, the long story short is that the Panthers are having to hope that Matt Rule and Joe Brady can somehow figure out a way to turn around Sam Darnold. And we just don't know if we have the protection to be able to do that for Sam. But also, we don't really know if we have the coaches that are going to be able to teach some of those fundamental things that are missing from Sam Darnold's game. I mean, you alluded to that clip that Dan Orlovsky put out there. And, we're talking about Joe Brady, and Tony and I did kind of agree on the fact that we kind of feel like he's not a good teacher. He might indeed be a nifty play caller, but he doesn't have a lot. Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of experience, and I don't think he has a good knack at teaching proper technique to players and stuff like that. So we're really kind of just left hoping that Sam will either figure it out or Matt Rule is going to be the guy to help mitigate some of the damages here.
Matt,
Yeah,
I'm sorry you have entered into a marital dispute. Like currently, I'm in a real life marital dispute downstairs,
Oh,
but
jeez.
you have entered one in this podcast, Cody.
Yeah, well-
and I'm telling you this, Cody. Explain this to me. Tell me what I don't get right. I mean, just tell me what it is saying that I'm missing. I just want to know.
Should I give
So-
you some time? Should
Well,
I
no.
leave and then come back? or-
No, you're
I mean,
fine. No,
like,
I
no, I'm about to
promise.
go to bed.
I
Don't
promise
worry,
this
we're
won't
close. We're
take
almost
long.
done. No, just
no,
tell me
no.
where I'm that far off the mark.
Okay, well, number one, you're far off the mark. If we're in online marriage, I wear the pants in this relationship. That's number one. Number two is Deshaun Watson. I mean, I think a lot can be said that our a lot of our drop passes are due to our quarterback not being in rhythm with the rest of the offense and not being confident enough to stand confident and throw the football, even in those rare moments when he does have a pocket to step up into and throw the football. Also, Deshaun is not, he wouldn't be the guy that's throwing into double coverage on the very first play of the football game
That
and
was
giving
not
away
on the
these
first play of the
pointless
game. That
turnovers.
was a
Yeah,
crazy good
but
play.
it doesn't
by
matter. He
Breland.
threw
It
an
wasn't.
interception on the
Look,
first
all
play
right,
of the game,
okay.
and Deshaun Watson
Wasn't
isn't
double
going to be
coverage.
doing that.
I am
He's not
talking
going
to
to
my
be
wife.
doing that. So when you continue to undervalue the kind of talent that a top 5 quarterback in the NFL could do for this Carolina Panthers team, on top of you add on this
I can't
defense that has the potential to get JC Horn back and Stephon Gilmore. I mean, if you don't have a franchise quarterback, Matt, I don't know if you agree with this point or not, but I'm a firm believer that if you don't have a genuine franchise quarterback leading your offense, your chances are dead on arrival, because then you're depending on a lot of other things to be an A+ level on your football team, your defense, your O-line, your receivers. And I just,
Well,
the Panthers
that's why
are not,
it makes
go
yeah,
ahead.
that's why it makes me so mad that Falcons fans have been trying to push Matt Ryan out the door for years now. And you guys would take Matt Ryan, right? Probably right now with the weapons you have. Certainly,
I hate that dude, bro. No, I wouldn't even invite him to
Yeah,
my
'cause
house.
You walked into that one, man. But I mean, I don't know. Do you? Let me ask you. Do you think?
well,
that
if you
Matt
had him,
Ryan,
Tony, he couldn't beat your team then. So I think I don't know. I think you should take him. I know he's.
let me ask you this: do you think Matt Ryan would be able to survive behind this Panthers offensive line?
I mean, the Falcons' offense line. I know I just got done saying they've only allowed 2 sacks in the last 4 weeks. The offensive line isn't great. It hasn't been great for a while. Matt Ryan has dealt
like 12 sacks in the last 2 weeks, dude. I mean,
no, I get it,
crazy.
but one of the things you gotta think too. Sacks aren't just an offensive line stat. It can also be a quarterback stat. And how much of those sacks is Sam Darnold inviting? I'm sure someone's got a stat on it, but again, Matt Ryan. There was a stat that Pro Football Focus put out. He's second behind only Josh Allen in pressures that get converted to sacks. Only 10% of Matt Ryan's pressures get converted to sacks. Josh Allen's around 8%. So, I love killing narratives, and other Falcons fans like to remind me that Matt Ryan's a statue when I think that can be further from the truth. I think he's very great at navigating a pocket, and that's really all a quarterback needs to do. Yes, there is this mobile quarterback generation on the rise, and it certainly adds another layer and dimension to NFL offenses. But at the end of the day, this game is won and lost through the air, through the pass. And you need to be able to accomplish that. You need to be able to, and in order to be able to accomplish it, you need to be able to navigate pocket. Pocket management's a key attribute for any quarterback coming into the league. And Matt Ryan's had that down, just like Tom Brady. He's one of the best at it. He's one of the best at everything. But, those types of non-mobile quarterbacks, that's what you need to do to survive, and they have. And again, I think Sam Darnold probably, if I was willing to bet, probably has invited a lot of those sacks that they've taken.
His pocket
he
presence
hasn't been
is
good.
not
Look,
good
again,
at
nothing
all.
has been good. Nothing has been good. his play, there's zero defense for Sam Darnold. Zero defense for Sam
Yeah.
Darnold, but nobody's helped him out either. The offensive line, it's all been it's just really I could
Look, I'll be
understand
honest.
if he's been bad.
If the Panthers were
Like,
to get Deshaun Watson, he'd be able to play. I'd be very worried as a Falcons fan. I think he can
yeah,
turn.
What I've
you
been
know,
saying.
is you right, and this is what my point, and this I've taken so much people. We've been fighting over this for the last 3. We're in a dark place, Panther fans, and I mean, really, but yeah, it would help on an individual game basis, right? It would.
I
It
just
would.
yeah, I
Like
just think it
having
all
a better
starts with the
quarterback,
right now.
and Cam made it so that look is that any given Sunday we could win. I mean, that's it. He
Yeah.
could cover up so much stuff, but at the end of the day, this team would still have a lot of the weaknesses that exist right now. They would still have all the weaknesses
Well,
except for
but
Sam Darnold.
the thing
And
is,
that's
you would
my
have the
point.
you'd have the quarterback checked off, and then you could worry about addressing those other needs. Whereas right now,
It would
now
help
you
in
gotta
the future. Oh, totally help in the future. But I'm just saying this is that
I'm with
week
I'm with
8,
Cody.
in
You
week
gotta
8,
have the
far is
quarterback. You gotta
I
have the
believe
quarterback.
that. Not disagreeing with that, but adding
Yeah.
him in week 8 does not make us Super Bowl contenders.
Not Super
That's
Bowl
my point.
contenders, but I think it gets you back in that mix of that 6 to 7 seed. Right now, they're trending in the wrong direction, and I think they're trending in the wrong direction because of their quarterback. If you got the quarterback, you're back in the mix.
Right now,
Yeah,
we're a
and
little
then
bit
our
worried about our
defense can be
coaching
aggressive.
staff being the
Yeah, because I think the
problem, though.
defense, I mean, you mentioned it, they're having to shoulder a huge weight right now, and you can only do
Yes.
that for so long.
How
Yeah.
do the Panthers win this game on Sunday?
Keeping it close. I think if the defense can get after, I mean, usually I always say this for a lot of matchups with the Falcons. If you can get after Matt Ryan and you can, have success against their offensive line, that's where you start. And if this is a low scoring game, I think it favors the Panthers. Where the Falcons win this game is if, they show that the level of offense they've showed the last couple of weeks and they're scoring 30 again. The Panthers, the offense isn't going to be able to keep up. So if this is like a 17-14 game, like the Falcons played in week 3 against the Giants, then I think they have a shot. But if this game, even crosses maybe even 25, I think the Falcons.
Yeah,
will
we
win.
can't be playing catch up. That's gonna be.
But I
tough
think
for
this
us.
is the
And
best
that's been
defense.
our problem, man.
I think this is the best defense the Falcons have faced since probably that Giants defense in week 3, because they faced Washington. Washington's defense is bad in week 4. They put up 30 points. They faced who did they face in week 5? Oh, the Jets. They faced the Jets. Jets are a mess. And then they faced the Dolphins. Those 3 defenses, that's who they've won 2 of their last 3 against. Not good defenses. So I wasn't totally shocked that the Falcons found their footing. If they put up another 30-point game against this Panthers defense, and they didn't need a lot of short fields to do it because Darnold's turning the ball over, or the Panthers offense is turning the ball over, then I'll say, all right, the Falcons offense is really starting to figure things out. But until then, I'm toning down the optimism because I do feel like they've taken advantage of some bad defenses. The Panthers defense I don't think is bad. They've just had to carry the weight of 2 units, and that's why they haven't.
Cody, bring that comment back up real quick, Mr. Spolum, whatever his name is. Bring it back up. Yeah, dude, I've been having it. You guys hear what you want to hear. That's what you're hearing. You hear what you want to hear. That's not what I'm saying. Having a franchise quarterback. Have I ever said that not having a franchise quarterback helps us? No, that is not the point. It's bringing in Deshaun Watson at this moment, at this week, at this point of the season, does not ultimately change the end game of the season. All right, maybe you make it to maybe, you know what, if 3 weeks ago, maybe we make it to a wild card and this and that. Bring them in next year then. Bring it in that. But I'm telling you this is anecdotally, yes, we beat the Giants, but we're not a better team than Tampa Bay all of a sudden. We're not a better team than Buffalo. We're not a better team than who else we got to play. There's like 3 teams we got to play on the back end that are fucking ridiculously good.
Tampa, Buffalo,
Arizona.
New Orleans,
And
Arizona.
And he may make us so we have a chance on any given Sunday to win any single game. Not disputing that. I'm not disputing that having a great quarterback helps our team on a Sunday, but it does not rectify the fact that our coaching staff right now is crying in the press conferences. They might as well be the Detroit Lions coaches right now. I mean, they
At
might
least
as
we
well.
have
I
a
mean,
chance
they are
in
like
those games that
little
you're talking
pussycats
about,
up in
though.
there, and our offensive line is terrible. It doesn't rectify everything. That's my whole point. Y'all act like it's a magic bullet alone. And yes, I want a quarterback. I want a quarterback. But what was I calling for in this draft?
Do you
Cody?
think it would make us a playoff team?
Maybe, but at this point, I think we're
So then
almost
if it makes us a
spiraling too
playoff
far.
team-
I mean, no, I think it's a little too. It's too late at this point.
Did you guys want Justin Fields or Mac Jones?
I did.
I wanted
Justin Fields. I wanted Justin Fields.
He
and
was
I wanted
the number
or an
2 rated
offensive
player on
lineman.
my
I wanted
board.
those two guys. Two things.
Rashawn Slater,
Yeah,
I had as my top rated left tackle. I had him above Penei Sewell, and he's been shutting
good for
down
you.
Miles
he's
Garrett and Chase Young. And then
Yeah, I mean,
Justin Fields. Yeah, a lot of people thought if you had the quarterback there in a draft class that had a bunch of good quarterbacks, and now it's looking like the Panthers still need one. Yeah, it's looking like we made 2 mistakes. And that's saying nothing about JC Horn, by the way. We're very excited about JC
These
Horn.
mugs said there where it's not too late. We're gonna wake them out wild card. Do you really think we can make a wild card? We lost. We couldn't.
Not
we
with
scored
Sam,
3 points
with Deshaun
against
we
the
could.
Giants. Wow.
But look,
Yeah, but
I
how many
place
games-
more
Alright,
of the
tell me this,
blame
Matt.
for that on Darnold than I guess
Tell me,
you do.
no, just tell me what does it take to get to a wild card, guys, real quick, and then we gotta go. It's been over an hour.
Like record.
Yeah, like what do you think the number of wins are?
I think it's possible that 9-8 gets the 7th spot. I think 10-7.
So the Panthers have to win 6 more games to even be close to getting a wild card.
Yeah, and I guess you guys rattled off the schedule. Your schedule seems much more difficult than the Falcons' schedule because
The back end of the schedule is Murderer's Row.
Yeah,
Murderer's
yeah.
Row.
I mean,
Atlanta, New England, Arizona, Washington, Miami, Atlanta again, Buffalo, Tampa, New Orleans, and we finish with Tampa.
yeah, because for the Falcons, I mean, they got Cowboys, another against Tampa, and then Buffalo. Those are the 3 where, I don't know if they have much of a chance. I thought maybe at the beginning of the season, maybe they split with Tampa. I no longer think so. But yeah, it sounds like you guys have a much more difficult schedule, so it would be tough sledding regardless. But
the only thing we're hoping is for the people that are wild carders, they got to be saying this, is that Tampa's going to be resting their people in week 17.
Do you not think, last point, do you not think the Houston Texans roster back when Deshaun, was going, that I feel like they were similar to what the Panthers currently have, and he put them, good players elevate their talent. He's almost like an Aaron Rodgers type of player as far as a football.
Different division. He threw 35 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and they still won 4 games or whatever it was. Like he was.
They didn't have the defense that we did either.
Well, and they lost.
No, what I'm just saying is this, and I know it's not an apples to apples. I know it's not an apples to apples, but first of all, is that when you look at quarterback stats, is that fourth quarter, quarterbacks make a lot of money in the stat card when they're playing from behind and you're passing all the time. They were always losing. Number 1. Number 2, they were playing in a division where you can make the playoffs basically with a losing record. I mean, Jacksonville, Tennessee just got good. So it's new, right? I mean, their division stinks. And on top of that, he has 1 playoff berth, I'm pretty sure. And, and yes, is that all the thing? Look, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he wouldn't help. I just think putting a quarterback in week 8 doesn't change the real trajectory of the team for this year. If you want to tell me adding Deshaun Watson helps us for our future, totally down with that. Got no problem talking about that. But at the end of the day, I just don't think that. I think we've seen too many systemic weaknesses on this team where it's not a single
But why wouldn't you
bullet
just
that
want to
will
get him in
fix
the
it.
building now? Because you're not going to fix those weaknesses overnight in the offseason. So
Sure.
Right.
Okay, now that's a good question. I am not anti just trying to get a player, but I am anti trying to get a player that has a sexual assault, whatever,
well, no, and I'm with you
potentially
there. I
pending
wouldn't.
charges with a team that has a history. The former owner had to sell his team in shame for the
No,
jeans. There's
and
too many questions.
That's an
That's it.
entirely different point. Because me personally, if I was running a team, I'm not trading for him because of those reasons.
Right. And that's what I'm saying.
But
And,
if we're talking
and like we
strictly
can't
football,
separate. No, we can't
well, no, you
strictly
can't. But I'm just
talk it.
saying, say he didn't have those issues. If he didn't have the legal issues, he'd still be on the market because he's still, declared his intentions.
Yeah,
to
if
leave
he
Houston.
didn't have those issues, we would have traded for him before the season started.
Yeah, I think
probably.
Miami would have already probably traded.
I mean, like we would not have traded for whatever it was Sam Darnold.
But
We
by
would
the
have
way,
been
the
all
same
up in
thing,
that.
Fair.
the
That's
same
fair.
thing that happened to the Panthers with Matthew Stafford. The Panthers were going to trade for Matthew Stafford
Yeah.
Yeah.
until he gave us the axe and decided he wanted to go to LA. Well,
Mhm.
apparently Watson is doing the same thing, saying that he hasn't said that he would lift his no trade clause to go
Yeah.
to Carolina. And now they're having the annual owners meeting right now. And David Tepper is trying to walk it back like, no, we were never really involved in wanting to get Deshaun here, not until the preseason. Well, it's once again, their quarterback of choice has spurned them. And now they're having to pretend like, oh, no, we're okay with Sam. And everyone knows that that isn't true. Everyone knows that it isn't true. And I've been saying to Tony, I think our owner is kind of revealing himself through his actions. He expected to be a winning football team by now after spending $2.5 million. And he's gone about this rebuild the entire wrong way.
And I think that's where we're gonna have to kind of close it on the Watson thing. Is that despite what kind of player he is that you can't separate him from whatever is going on right now. And whether it's true, whether it's not true, we don't know. We don't have enough information. But I told somebody in the comment section today, don't go into the comment section if you're Tony, especially. Like if you know that a house has rumored has structural issues, you don't buy the house without getting an inspection. So it was already risky trading all those picks in a way, right? There's arguments for and against it, but like it's just crazy. Anyway, enough. I'm gonna go save my. Actually, I'm not. I'm gonna go in my whatever. Just like the Carolina Panthers, I guess. Anyway, Matt, what do you think? Who do you think is gonna win this week? Because for the first time ever, I picked against my own team against the Atlanta Falcons in my whole history of my life.
Wow.
I know. I refuse to pick the Atlanta Falcons to win anytime.
Yeah.
But this time I'm in a bad spot.
Well, I don't like predictions, and I'll say what I've kind of been saying on my podcast. Until I see the Falcons kind of, really put the clamps on an opponent that I feel like they should and really finish a game, because they've struggled to do that. They let Miami back in, they let the Jets back in. Again, I wouldn't be shocked one way or another. I do think the Falcons, favored by 3 points at home. I think that's about reasonable, and I think, I'll take that. But again, I really do think this is an opportunity maybe for the Panthers offense to get right. This isn't a great.
This. We think so shitty about our own teams. Nobody wants to pick.
Well,
them.
look, I guess you haven't watched the Falcons defense all year. You're going to see them this Sunday. They haven't been great. They don't have a lot
I saw
of
that
talent.
Washington game, which was embarrassing. How do you lose that? I mean, like it was like an embarrassment. The two
Falcons
touchdowns.
Gonna Falcon. And that was why we were kind of being skeptical about the coaching staff, because we thought they hadn't learned the lessons that the previous one did, and maybe they're starting to figure stuff out. But yeah, I think there's an opportunity here. Again, especially if AJ Terrell's out, that kind of leans it more that, look, you're playing against some bad cornerbacks then. So I'll still say Falcons by 3, but, I'm not super confident in it. Until I see them really put the clamps, win double digits, I'm not going to be, super confident predicting them anything more than winning by 3. So
Matt, Karoly, thank you so much for catching up with us tonight. How can they find your work?
absolutely. Yeah. So you can find me on Twitter at Matt Karoly. Karoly spelled Karoly. And, if you want to check in on a Falcons podcast, it's Talkin Birdy. You can find it anywhere you get your podcasts. We're on Twitter at Talkin Birdy Pod. So we got weekly episodes. We'll have one next week to cover the likes and dislikes of this matchup. Hopefully there's more likes than dislikes, but for your guys' sake, you probably hope the dislike column is more. So that's where you can find me. Again, guys, appreciate you having me on again.
Man, thank you for being so generous with your time, man. This was only supposed to be 30 minutes, and we just went off, and then you got in this marital dispute in the middle of this marital dispute. Cody Lashley and I are gonna get a divorce, but we're not getting divorced. We're just gonna have an argument. We'll get back together tomorrow, probably.
Well, you guys kind of remind me, and I'm sure you know who Aaron Freeman is, and people like to joke that we argue like a married couple on Twitter. We've got quite the rivalry going there. So
He will passive aggressive you to death, probably.
Oh yeah, he has, and so I make good work of the mute button at times on Twitter, so I hear less of it. But he's fun. You remind me a lot of that. But no, I love talking football. I could talk football all day. So this was
fantastic,
great.
Man. Thank you so much for the time, Cody.
Yeah.
Let's do debate my take maybe tomorrow or.
No, that's fine. I can't. Yeah, we both have.
I'm not even in the mood right now. If you don't want to fuck with this smoke tonight, you don't want this smoke.
If you say so, Poppy.
Thank you. I love you, baby.
I love you too, Poppy.
All right, guys, get the fuck out of here.
Later, y'all. Keep pounding.